Serenity Blackwood's hands trembled as she stared at the foreclosure notice. The Cedar Springs Medical Clinic, the only healthcare facility within 50 miles, would close in 30 days. "There must be something we can do," she whispered, looking up at Dr. Morris, her mentor and the clinic's aging director. "I've exhausted every option." Dr. Morris removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Everett Enterprises bought the property. Their pharmaceutical division wants the land for a distribution center." A sharp pain shot through Serenity's chest. Without the clinic, her father's heart condition would go untreated. The entire community would suffer. "I'm going to New York," she announced. Dr. Morris shook his head. "Serenity, these corporate types don't care about small-town clinics. I have to try." 3 days later, Serenity stood in the gleaming Manhattan headquarters of Everett Enterprises, clutching her worn leather purse. The receptionist eyed her modest floral dress with barely disguised disdain. "Mr. Everett doesn't take unscheduled meetings." "Please," Serenity leaned forward. "Tell him it's about Cedar Springs." 40 minutes later, she was escorted into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Behind an imposing desk sat Thorne Everett, his steel-gray eyes assessing her with cool detachment. "Miss Blackwood," he said, not standing. "You've come a long way to waste both our time. Mr. Everett, our clinic serves over 2,000 people. My father will die without. Your community's health care isn't my concern," he cut in. "The decision is final." Serenity swallowed hard. "There must be something I can offer." A glint appeared in Thorne's eyes as he leaned back in his chair. "Actually, there might be." He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Diane, hold my calls for the next hour." Thorne walked to the window, his tall frame silhouetted against the skyline. "I need a wife." Serenity almost laughed. "I'm sorry. My board of directors is concerned about the company's future. I need stability. An heir. You can't be serious." "Perfectly serious." He turned to face her. "Marry me, and your clinic stays open. I'll even fund its expansion." "This is insane." Serenity stood, clutching her purse. "I don't know you. I'm not going to marry a stranger for what? Money? Security? The lives of your neighbors." His voice remained eerily calm. "People marry for worse reasons every day." "I can't," she whispered. "You have 24 hours to decide." Thorne returned to his desk. "1 year as my wife. The clinic remains funded for 10 years regardless of what happens afterward." 1 year? Serenity's mind raced. "My driver will take you to your hotel. I've arranged accommodations." Back in her hotel room, Serenity paced frantically. She called Pastor Daniel, her father's best friend and the man everyone in Cedar Springs expected her to eventually marry. "He wants to marry me, Daniel, in exchange for saving the clinic." The silence on the line stretched painfully. "That's the devil's bargain, Serenity," Daniel finally said. "Your virtue isn't for sale. My father will die without his treatments. Then it will be God's will." Serenity's hand tightened around the phone. "Is it God's will that children go without vaccines? That Mrs. Fletcher dies without her diabetes medication?" "You know I didn't mean." "I have to go," she interrupted, ending the call. That night, she barely slept. As dawn broke over the unfamiliar city, her phone rang. "Have you decided?" Thorne's voice was crisp, businesslike. Serenity closed her eyes. "The clinic stays open for 10 years minimum? Full funding?" "Yes. And your father receives the best cardiac care available." She took a deep breath. "Then I accept." "Excellent. My assistant will be there in an hour with the agreement." "Agreement? Marriage contract, Miss Blackwood. Everything in writing." When the assistant arrived, Serenity scanned the thick document with growing dismay. Her duties were outlined with clinical precision: attend certain social functions, maintain appearances, no public scandals. A separate bedroom would be provided. The marriage would last exactly 1 year, after which she would receive a generous settlement. There was no mention of love, no mention of children. With shaking hands, she signed her name on the dotted line. 3 hours later, she was whisked to a penthouse where a team of stylists descended upon her. "Mr. Everett requires his bride to project a certain image," explained a sharp-featured woman named Vivian, whom Serenity immediately disliked. By evening, Serenity's chestnut hair had been expertly styled, her simple clothes replaced with designer labels. Standing before the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. "The clinic received $1 million deposit today. What have you done, Serenity? As tears threatened to spill, Vivian appeared at her side. No crying, she said coldly. You've made your deal with the devil. Time to pay up. Outside, a limousine waited to take Serenity to her new life and the man she now belonged to. The Everett mansion occupied an entire floor of a prestigious Fifth Avenue building. As the elevator doors opened, Serenity stepped into a vast foyer of marble and crystal. Your room is in the East Wing, Thorne said, not bothering to look at her as he checked his phone. Mrs. Harrington will show you around. An elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair appeared silently at Serenity's side. Welcome, Miss Blackwood. We're getting married tomorrow, Thorne announced, still focused on his screen. City Hall, 9 a.m. Serenity's heart hammered in her chest. Tomorrow? So soon? Is there a reason to wait? His eyes finally met hers, challenging. I thought maybe my family. This isn't a celebration, Miss Blackwood. It's a business transaction. With that, he disappeared down a hallway, leaving Serenity frozen in place. Don't take it personally, dear, Mrs. Harrington said gently. He's like that with everyone. The housekeeper led her through the sprawling apartment. Each room was immaculately designed yet sterile, like a museum where nothing could be touched. Her bedroom suite was larger than her family's entire house in Cedar Springs. The walk-in closet had been filled with designer clothes in her size. The wedding attire is here. Mrs. Harrington indicated a garment bag. Mr. Everett's stylist selected it. After the housekeeper left, Serenity unzipped the bag to find a tasteful cream-colored dress, expensive but subdued. She sat on the edge of the vast bed, overwhelmed. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Pastor Daniel says you're making a terrible mistake. Please come home. Serenity turned off her phone. The next morning, she was driven to City Hall in a black town car. Thorne was already waiting, wearing a perfectly tailored gray suit, his face expressionless. The ceremony lasted less than 5 minutes. When the clerk pronounced them husband and wife, Thorne briefly touched her elbow, their first physical contact. We have a reception to attend, he said, guiding her back to the car. A reception? You didn't mention. The board of directors and key investors expect to meet my new wife. The reception was held at an exclusive club overlooking Central Park. As they entered, conversations halted. Curious eyes assessed Serenity from every direction. Smile, Thorne murmured near her ear. You're on display. For the next 2 hours, Serenity shook hands with strangers who asked probing questions about her background. She stuck to the story Thorne had instructed. They'd met through charity work, had a whirlwind romance, and decided life was too short to wait. She's quite rustic. A woman in diamonds commented just within Serenity's earshot. Thorne always had unusual tastes, her companion replied. A tall man with features similar to Thorne's approached, champagne in hand. So you're the bride no one knew existed until yesterday. Maxwell Everett, he introduced himself. The less successful brother. Serenity Blackwood. Everett. The new name felt foreign on her tongue. Maxwell studied her. How exactly did you convince my brother to abandon his lifelong bachelorhood? Before she could respond, Thorne appeared at her side. Max, I see you're interrogating my wife. Just getting acquainted with the newest Everett. Don't you have somewhere to be? Perhaps the office, where you're supposed to be finalizing the Singapore contracts. Maxwell's smile tightened. Always the taskmaster. He nodded to Serenity. Welcome to the family. Such as it is. As the reception wound down, Serenity's face ached from forced smiling. In the car returning to the penthouse, Thorne loosened his tie. You did well, he said, surprising her. The board seemed satisfied. Is that all that matters? Thorne gazed out the window. For now, back at the penthouse, Serenity hesitated in the foyer, uncertain what was expected of her now that they were officially married. About tonight, Thorne began, seeming uncomfortable for the first time. I want to clarify our arrangement. He gestured for her to follow him into his study, a dark-paneled room lined with books and a large desk covered with papers. Our marriage is a legal formality, he said, pouring himself a whiskey. I have no expectation of traditional marital relations. Serenity felt her cheeks burn. I don't understand. You'll maintain your own quarters. I'll respect your virtue and religious upbringing. Then why marry at all? Why not just hire me as, I don't know, a companion for events? Thorne swirled his drink. Appearance of stability. Family values. The board responds to these things. He paused, his expression unreadable. Eventually, I'll need an heir for the company, but that can be arranged through medical means when the time comes. Your virtue will remain intact. Serenity felt simultaneously relieved and strangely disappointed. I'm just a prop to you, aren't I? You're getting what you wanted. Your clinic is saved. Your father will receive the best care money can buy. Thorne finished his drink. We both benefit from this arrangement. And after the year is up, you'll be generously compensated, free to return to your life. That night, alone in her luxurious room, Serenity couldn't sleep. She wandered the silent apartment, eventually discovering a staircase to the roof. The penthouse had a private terrace garden, clearly long neglected. Dead plants in expensive containers lined the perimeter. In the center stood a stone bench beside a dry fountain. Serenity sat on the bench, gazing at the city lights. For the first time since arriving in New York, she allowed herself to cry. The next morning, Mrs. Harrington found her asleep on the bench, dew dampening her nightgown. Oh dear, the housekeeper sighed, draping a blanket over Serenity's shoulders. You found his mother's garden. Serenity blinked awake. His mother? She loved this place. After she died, Mr. Everett wouldn't let anyone touch it. Mrs. Harrington helped Serenity to her feet. Come inside before you catch cold. Your husband has already left for the office. Serenity looked around at the neglected space. Could I work up here sometimes? Mrs. Harrington smiled. It's your home now too, Mrs. Everett. Though I suspect you don't feel that way yet. 2 weeks passed with Serenity barely seeing her husband. Thorne left before dawn and returned after midnight, if at all. Their only interactions were terse text messages about upcoming social obligations. The abandoned rooftop garden became Serenity's sanctuary. She ordered soil, seeds, and tools, spending hours bringing it back to life. Mrs. Harrington occasionally joined her, sharing stories about the mansion's previous occupants. Mrs. Everett had quite the green thumb. The housekeeper remarked one afternoon. Thorne would help her plant roses every spring. Serenity paused, trowel in hand. He doesn't seem like someone who'd enjoy gardening. He was different before they died. Mrs. Harrington sighed. The accident changed everything. Accident. Car crash, 12 years ago. Thorne was just 19, home from his first year at Columbia. The housekeeper lowered her voice. He and his father had argued that morning. Something about Thorne's business studies versus his father's wish for him to attend medical school. Mrs. Harrington glanced toward the door. He blames himself. Never said it outright, but I know. What about Maxwell? Only 15 then. Thorne became his legal guardian, put his own life on hold to run the company and raise his brother. She shook her head. Not that Maxwell appreciates the sacrifice. Later that evening, while arranging newly potted herbs, Serenity heard the elevator doors open. Thorne emerged onto the terrace, stopping abruptly at the sight of the transformed space. What have you done? His voice was dangerously quiet. Serenity stood, wiping soil from her hands. I thought it needed care. You had no right. He surveyed the new plantings, jaw clenched. It's my home too, supposedly. This garden was private. It was abandoned, Serenity countered. Beautiful things shouldn't be left to die. Something flickered in Thorne's eyes. Pain, quickly masked by anger. He turned to leave, then paused. My mother designed this garden. He didn't look at her. Everything was exactly as she left it. Serenity's throat tightened. I'm sorry. I didn't know it meant. There's a charity gala tomorrow night. Be ready at 7. He disappeared inside, conversation over. Serenity stared after him, realizing she'd crossed an invisible boundary. The next day, she explored the mansion's library, finding albums of family photographs. Young Thorne smiled easily, nothing like the cold man she'd married. One photo showed him helping a beautiful dark-haired woman, his mother, planting something in the very garden Serenity had disturbed. She was still looking at the albums when Mrs. Harrington appeared with tea. Finding some answers? The housekeeper asked. Trying to. Serenity accepted the cup. Has he always been so closed off? Not always. Mrs. Harrington sat beside her. After the accident, he had to grow up overnight. Run the company, raise Maxwell, maintain the family legacy. She lowered her voice. And there's something else. The doctor visits. Doctor visits? Mrs. Harrington nodded. Started about 6 months ago. Private doctor comes here rather than him going to any office. Very secretive. Is he ill? I've worked here 30 years. I know when something's wrong. She patted Serenity's hand. Maybe you can reach him. No one else has. That evening, Serenity wore a forest green gown selected by Thorne's stylist for the charity gala. When she emerged from her room, she found him waiting in the foyer, checking his watch. You look acceptable, he stated, the closest thing to a compliment she'd received. In the car, Serenity gathered her courage. I saw the photo albums today. You looked happy. Thorne remained focused on his phone. That was a long time ago. Mrs. Harrington mentioned you've been seeing a doctor. His head snapped up, eyes narrowing. The staff should mind their business. Is everything okay with your health? My health is not your concern. Serenity turned toward the window. Nothing about you is my concern, apparently. I'm just the contract wife. To her surprise, Thorne set down his phone. Why did you restore the garden? It needed life, she answered simply. And I needed something meaningful to do. Thorne studied her for a moment. What did you do? Before this? I was a nurse at the clinic, specialized in community outreach. You miss it. Every day. Serenity met his gaze. People needed me there. Here, I'm decorative. The car stopped outside a gleaming museum. Before they exited, Thorne said quietly, the roses were her favorite, dark red ones. Inside, the gala was in full swing. Executives, celebrities, and politicians mingled beneath crystal chandeliers. Serenity recognized Maxwell chatting with a stunning blonde woman, who glanced over with evident distaste. That's Vivian Sinclair, Thorne murmured. My former fiancée. Now Maxwell's colleague. You were engaged? Briefly. She preferred the younger Everett, among others. Throughout the evening, Serenity noticed Thorne checking his watch repeatedly, looking increasingly pale. During a speech by the charity director, he swayed slightly beside her. You're not well? She whispered. I'm fine. His voice lacked its usual authority. Your pulse is racing. I can see it in your neck. Her nursing instincts took over. You need to sit down. Not here. He gripped her elbow. Too many eyes. They made a discreet exit to a private anteroom. Once alone, Thorne loosened his tie, sinking into a chair. Your medication is in your left pocket, Serenity said. I saw you touch it earlier. Thorne looked startled but reached into his jacket, retrieving a small pill case. He swallowed a tablet dry. How did you? I was a good nurse. She poured him water from a nearby carafe. Want to tell me what's really going on? No. He drank the water. But thank you. They sat in unexpected companionable silence. After a few minutes, Thorne's phone rang. He checked the screen, frowning. I need to take this. He stepped into the hallway. Serenity waited, absently examining a painting on the wall. When Thorne returned, his face was grim. We need to go? Now. What happened? Maxwell has apparently shared some sensitive information with people who shouldn't have it. Thorne strode toward the exit. Family crisis. In the car, he made several tense calls while Serenity watched the city lights blur past. When he finally ended the last call, he leaned back, exhausted. Is everything okay? No. He rubbed his temples. Maxwell's always been reckless, but this. Can I help? Thorne turned to her, surprise evident. Why would you want to? Because whatever this is, it's clearly important to you. Something shifted in his expression, a momentary vulnerability quickly concealed. The company is launching a new drug next month. Revolutionary cancer treatment. He sighed. Maxwell just leaked confidential trial data to a competitor. Why would he do that? Because he resents living in my shadow. Thorne's voice hardened. Always has. As they arrived home, Thorne's phone rang again. Another emergency. I have to go back out. He headed toward his study. Don't wait up. That night, unable to sleep, Serenity returned to the garden. Looking out at the city skyline, she realized she felt something unexpected, concern for the cold, distant man she'd married. When she finally returned to her room near dawn, she found a small package outside her door. Inside was a packet of dark red rose seeds and a note in precise handwriting. For the garden. They were her favorite. The annual Everett Enterprises benefit was the social event of the season. For 3 weeks, Serenity had endured fittings, etiquette lessons, and briefings on key attendees. This isn't just a party, Thorne explained during a rare breakfast together. It's where we secure next year's major investments. And my role is be charming, deflect personal questions, represent the stable family image we're cultivating. Since the night of the charity gala, something had shifted between them. Thorne still worked punishing hours, but occasionally joined her for meals. Twice, he'd stepped onto the terrace to silently observe her progress in the garden. The morning of the benefit, Serenity received a call from Cedar Springs. Dr. Morris reported that her father's latest treatments were working miracles. The new cardiac specialist Thorne brought in. He's revolutionized your father's care plan. The doctor's voice cracked. Your dad walked a full mile yesterday, Serenity. First time in years. Serenity blinked back tears. I didn't know Thorne had sent a specialist. Didn't just send one. He's covering everything. Equipment, medications, even hired additional staff. After hanging up, Serenity sought out Mrs. Harrington. Did you know about the specialist Thorne sent for my father? The housekeeper nodded. He made the arrangements the day after your wedding. Why wouldn't he tell me? Some men find it easier to act than speak. Mrs. Harrington smiled, especially when feelings are involved. That evening, Serenity wore a midnight blue gown that seemed to catch starlight with every movement. When she descended the stairs, Thorne's expression changed almost imperceptibly. You look. He paused, searching for words. The dress suits you. In the car, Serenity gathered her courage. Thank you for helping my father. Thorne looked momentarily startled. It was part of our agreement. The specialist wasn't. The additional staff wasn't. He turned to the window. It seemed efficient. It was kind, she corrected gently. You could have just written a check. Thorne adjusted his cuffs. You should know that Vivian will be attending tonight. As Maxwell's guest. Why does she dislike me so much? I barely know her. She expected to be Mrs. Everett. His mouth formed a thin line. She cultivated that relationship for years. What happened? I discovered she was seeing Maxwell behind my back. Thorne's voice hardened. They thought I wouldn't notice. I'm sorry. Don't be. She showed her true colors before it was too late. The company means more to her than any relationship. The benefit was held at the Everett Towers Grand Ballroom. Hundreds of guests in formal attire mingled beneath crystal chandeliers. Photographers clamored for pictures of the elusive Thorne Everett and his mysterious new bride. Serenity felt Thorne's hand at the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd. His touch was light, but reassuring. Smile, he murmured. The vultures are circling. They were immediately surrounded by board members and their spouses. Serenity fielded intrusive questions with the practiced responses she'd rehearsed. Such a whirlwind romance, commented an older woman dripping in diamonds. Though I always thought Thorne would choose someone more established. Sometimes the heart chooses what the mind would reject, Serenity replied with a sweet smile. She felt Thorne's hand tighten slightly at her waist. Later, as Thorne was pulled into a conversation with investors, Serenity found herself alone at the bar. A voice behind her made her spine stiffen. The country mouse cleans up well. Vivian Sinclair stood there in a crimson dress that left little to the imagination. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Ms. Sinclair, Serenity acknowledged. Lovely event, isn't it? Adorable. You're trying so hard. Vivian sipped her champagne. But you should know what you've gotten yourself into. I'm quite aware of my marriage, thank you. Are you? Vivian leaned closer. Do you know about his condition? The doctor visits? The specialists? Serenity fought to keep her expression neutral. My husband's health is private. Oh, so he hasn't told you. Vivian's laugh was brittle. Interesting marriage you have. Is there a point to this conversation? Just friendly advice. Vivian's voice hardened. Don't get comfortable. The Everetts have a way of discarding people when they're no longer useful. Like they discarded you? Vivian's eyes narrowed. Before she could respond, Maxwell appeared at her side. Tormenting my sister-in-law, Viv? He winked at Serenity. Don't mind her. She's still bitter. I'm simply educating her. Vivian tossed her hair. Someone should. Maxwell steered Vivian away, but not before casting a strange glance back at Serenity. She couldn't tell if it was apology or warning. Moments later, Thorne appeared. What did Vivian say to you? Nothing important. Serenity hesitated. Though she mentioned your health. Thorne's jaw tightened. She knows nothing. But there is something to know? Before he could answer, the CEO of a rival pharmaceutical company approached. The moment was lost. As the evening progressed, Serenity watched Thorne work the room. Despite his cold exterior, he moved with practiced charm, securing promises and commitments. Occasionally, his hand would touch his jacket pocket, where she knew he kept his medication. During the dinner, Thorne was seated at the head table while Serenity was placed with board members' spouses. From across the room, she saw him check his watch repeatedly, growing increasingly pale. When he abruptly left the ballroom, Serenity followed discreetly. She found him in a service corridor, leaning against the wall, breathing heavily. "You need your medication," she said, opening his jacket and retrieving the pill case. Thorne didn't protest as she helped him take the pill. "I'm fine." "You're not." She kept her voice firm. "And we both know it. This isn't the time or place." He straightened his tie. "We need to get back. Not until your color returns. Sit down." To her surprise, he complied, sinking onto a nearby chair. Serenity knelt beside him, checking his pulse. "Your heart is racing. It's just stress. It's more than that." She met his gaze. "I'm a nurse, Thorne. I can help if you let me." For a moment, something vulnerable crossed his face. "You can't fix this. Try me." A long silence stretched between them. Finally, Thorne spoke. "The new cancer drug we're launching? I developed it initially because I was looking for a cure." "For what?" Before he could answer, the door opened. Maxwell stood there, expression unreadable. "Speech time, brother. Everyone's waiting." Thorne stood, mask firmly back in place. "We'll continue this discussion at home." The remainder of the evening passed in a blur. Thorne delivered a powerful speech about medical innovation and responsibility. The crowd responded with enthusiastic support and record donation pledges. As they prepared to leave, Serenity excused herself to use the restroom. Taking a wrong turn, she found herself in a quiet hallway. Voices from a partially open door caught her attention. "It's all set for the launch," Maxwell's voice. "Once the data is altered, Thorne will be finished." "Are you sure?" Vivian replied. "This isn't just about humiliating him anymore. This is fraud. He's already dying." Maxwell's voice hardened. "I'm just accelerating the inevitable." Serenity froze, heart pounding. His little wife is a complication. Vivian sounded irritated. "She's not as naive as she appears. She's irrelevant. Once the board sees the manipulated trial results, they'll force Thorne out. The company will need stable leadership." "Me." Serenity backed away silently, mind racing. Dying. Thorne was dying? In the car ride home, Thorne seemed exhausted but satisfied with the event's success. Serenity struggled to process what she'd overheard. "You wanted to continue our discussion," she finally said. Thorne glanced at her. "Not tonight. It's been a long day." "When then? Tomorrow? Next week? When you're too sick to hide it anymore?" His expression hardened. "What exactly did Vivian tell you?" "Enough to know you're keeping something significant from me." Serenity's voice shook. "I thought this was just a business arrangement, but I still deserve the truth." The car pulled up to their building. Thorne stared straight ahead. "The truth rarely brings comfort, Serenity. Try me." He turned to face her, eyes tired but resolute. "Come to my study when we get upstairs." In that moment, Serenity knew her life was about to change again, and whatever secret Thorne had been hiding would test their fragile connection in ways neither of them could predict. Thorne's study was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from a single desk lamp. He poured himself a whiskey, not offering Serenity one. "What exactly did you overhear?" he asked, his back to her. "Maxwell and Vivian are planning something for the drug launch. Something that will hurt you." Serenity hesitated. "And Maxwell said you're dying." Thorne's shoulders tensed. He turned slowly, expression unreadable. "Well, now you know." "Know what?" "You haven't told me anything." Serenity stepped closer. "Are you ill?" "Terminal pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. His voice was clinical, detached. "Diagnosed 8 months ago." The room seemed to tilt under Serenity's feet. 8 months? How long? Prognosis was a year, maybe less. He sipped his whiskey. "I've exhausted standard treatment options." "That's why you married me? Because you're dying?" Thorne set down his glass. "I needed to secure the company's future. The board was already questioning my ability to lead. Maxwell isn't ready or trustworthy, as you've discovered. So I'm what? A dying man's last attempt at respectability? A calculated decision. The board responded well to our marriage. It bought me time to finish what matters." Serenity felt a surge of anger. "Why didn't you tell me? I had a right to know. It wasn't relevant to our arrangement." "Not relevant." She laughed bitterly. "You're asking me to become a widow within a year, and that's not relevant. You'll be well compensated. Your clinic secured for decades, not just years." Serenity stared at him in disbelief. "Do you really think that's what matters to me? Money. What does matter to you, Serenity?" Thorne studied her. Why are you so upset? This was never meant to be a real marriage. Because I trusted you. Because I've been living with you, caring about your well-being, worried about your health. You weren't supposed to care. Well, I do. That's what happens when people live together, Thorne. They start to care. His expression softened slightly. That was unexpected. Serenity paced the room, processing. There must be clinical trials, experimental treatments. I've consulted the best specialists. My particular mutation makes standard approaches ineffective. What about the new drug you're launching? You said you developed it looking for a cure. It works for some types of cancer. Not mine. Thorne sat behind his desk. I've accepted my prognosis, Serenity. You should too. She stepped forward, hands flat on his desk. No, I won't accept it. And neither should you. Thorne looked startled by her vehemence. Now, she continued, tell me about Maxwell and Vivian's plan. I don't know details. Maxwell has been increasingly hostile, questioning my decisions publicly. Thorne rubbed his temples. The drug launch is critical. It's my legacy. I heard them mention altered data. Thorne's head snapped up. That would destroy everything. The drug works. It could save thousands of lives. Then we need proof of what they're planning. Yes, like it or not, I'm involved now. Serenity crossed her arms. But first, I want to see your medical records. That's not necessary. It is if I'm going to help you fight this. Thorne looked at her for a long moment, then unlocked a drawer. He handed her a thick file. Everything's there. Treatment history, prognosis, genetic analysis. Serenity took the file and moved to a chair, reading carefully. Her nursing training allowed her to understand the grim details. When she looked up, Thorne was watching her with an unreadable expression. There's more, isn't there? She asked. Something you're not telling me. Thorne hesitated, then retrieved another folder from the safe behind his desk. This might answer your other questions. Inside were legal documents, their marriage contract, but also succession plans, fertility clinic correspondence, and sperm banking records. You were planning for a child? Serenity looked up, shocked. Even knowing you wouldn't live to see them grow up? The Everett legacy needs an heir. Someone Maxwell can't control or manipulate. Thorne's voice was quiet. The plan was to approach you about artificial insemination after 6 months of marriage. Serenity stood abruptly, papers scattering. So that's why you married a virgin bride? Pure genetics? Someone naive enough to agree. Your background was ideal. Intelligence, health, strong community values. His clinical tone made it worse. The perfect mother for an heir who would need those qualities without a father present. Serenity felt tears threatening. I can't believe I actually started to care about you. I never asked for that. No, you just asked for my body as an incubator for your legacy. She threw the fertility clinic brochure at him. Did it ever occur to you that I might want to say in bringing a child into this world? That a child needs more than a trust fund and a dying father's name. Thorne flinched. I've provided for every possibility. Except human emotion. Serenity wiped angry tears. That's always the variable you can't control, isn't it? For the first time, Thorne looked genuinely regretful. Serenity, I'm going back to Cedar Springs. She moved toward the door. I can't do this. Our contract. Sue me. She turned back, eyes flashing. Or did you plan for this contingency too? Special clause for when the naive country nurse discovers she's just a walking incubator. Thorne stood. That's not what I am to you. Then what am I, Thorne? Because from where I stand, I'm just another acquisition. Insurance for your precious legacy. You're more than that. Am I? Tell me how. Her voice cracked. Tell me one genuine thing you feel about me, not what I represent or provide. The silence stretched between them. Thorne opened his mouth, then closed it again. That's what I thought. Serenity headed for the door. I'll pack my things. The clinic funding will be affected. She froze. Are you threatening me? Stating facts. His voice was strained. The board's support is contingent on our marriage. If you leave, then I'll find another way to save the clinic. She turned to face him. I won't be emotionally blackmailed into staying. As Serenity reached her room, anger gave way to grief. She pulled out her suitcase, mechanically placing items inside. Her phone rang. Mrs. Harrington, asking if she needed anything. Serenity declined, unable to explain. A knock at her door startled her. Expecting Thorne, she was surprised to find a courier with an urgent delivery. A manila envelope marked Everett Enterprises, confidential. Sorry, ma'am, the young man apologized. Delivery system mixed up the addresses. This should have gone to Mr. Everett's office downtown. After he left, Serenity examined the envelope. The seal was already broken. Despite herself, she slid out the contents, research data for the cancer drug launch. Her medical training allowed her to recognize the inconsistencies immediately. Key efficacy numbers had been altered, safety data manipulated. With these changes, the drug would appear dangerous, ineffective, destroying years of legitimate research that could save lives. Maxwell's plan became clear: sabotage the drug launch, blame Thorne's declining health for the errors, force him out, and take control of the company. Serenity sat heavily on the bed. If she left now, Thorne would lose everything: his company, his legacy, his last chance to create something lasting. For hours, she sat motionless, the damning evidence spread around her. Dawn was breaking when she made her decision. She found Thorne in his study, still awake, staring at the city skyline. "Did you know your brother is falsifying the trial data?" She placed the documents on his desk. Thorne looked startled, then examined the papers. His face drained of color. "Where did you get these?" "Ms. Delivered Courier." "The changes are subtle but significant. They make the drug look dangerous." He studied the alterations, jaw clenched. "This would destroy everything." "I know." Thorne looked up at her. "Why are you showing me this?" "You were leaving." Serenity met his gaze. "Because despite everything, I still believe in doing what's right. Your drug could save lives. I won't let Maxwell destroy that out of petty revenge." "Thank you." Two simple words, but his voice contained genuine emotion. "I'm still angry with you," she clarified. "What you planned to do, treating me like a broodmare for your genetic legacy, that was wrong. I see that now." He placed the documents aside. "What do you suggest we do about Maxwell?" "We need to prove he altered the data. Protect the real research." "We?" Thorne raised an eyebrow. "Yes, we." Serenity crossed her arms. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the people that drug could help." For the first time since she'd known him, Thorne Everett smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face. "I don't deserve your help, Serenity." "No, you don't." She allowed herself a small smile in return. "But you're getting it anyway. On one condition." "Name it." "Complete honesty from now on. No more secrets." Thorne nodded slowly. "Agreed." As morning light filtered through the windows, they began planning how to save Thorne's legacy, and perhaps find a way forward neither of them had anticipated. For 3 days, Thorne and Serenity worked relentlessly. They converted his study into a command center, collecting evidence of Maxwell's tampering. Security footage showed him accessing the research lab after hours. Email trails revealed coded communications with Vivian and a rival pharmaceutical company. "We need original data backups to prove the real results," Thorne said, scrolling through encrypted files. His complexion had grown increasingly pallid. "When did you last eat?" Serenity asked, noticing his trembling hands. "Not important. It is if you collapse before we finish this." She brought him protein shakes and medication on schedule, ignoring his protests. On the 4th morning, Thorne received an urgent call from his research director. "The FDA submission is being finalized today," he reported grimly. Maxwell insisted on handling it personally. "We're running out of time," Serenity said after he hung up. "I need to access the secure server at headquarters." Thorne stood, swaying slightly. "Tonight, after everyone leaves. You're not well enough to go alone." "I don't have a choice." That evening, Serenity insisted on accompanying him. They entered Everett Tower through the executive garage, using Thorne's private elevator to reach the research floor. "The backup server is in my private lab," Thorne explained, leading her through darkened corridors. "Only I have access." In the state-of-the-art laboratory, Thorne unlocked a hidden compartment, revealing a separate computer system. "5 minutes to download the original data," he murmured, fingers flying across the keyboard. Serenity kept watch at the door. Suddenly, she heard voices approaching, Maxwell and Vivian. "They're coming," she whispered urgently. Thorne worked faster, face tense with concentration. As the download completed, he staggered, clutching his abdomen. "Thorne!" Serenity rushed to his side. His face contorted with pain as he collapsed against her. The voices grew closer. Thinking quickly, Serenity helped him into a supply closet moments before the lab door opened. "The submission goes out tomorrow," Maxwell was saying. Once the FDA sees these results, the drug will be finished. And Thorne? Vivian asked. The board meeting Friday will be his last. I've already spoken with key members. They agree his health makes him unfit to continue. Thorne's breathing grew labored in the confined space. Serenity pressed her hand over his mouth, feeling his pulse racing dangerously beneath her fingers. After agonizing minutes, Maxwell and Vivian finally left. Serenity eased the closet door open to find Thorne barely conscious, skin clammy. Hospital, she insisted, supporting his weight. No home. He clutched the flash drive containing the original data. Can't risk public attention, not now. In the car, Thorne's condition deteriorated. Serenity used her nursing skills to stabilize him, but fear gripped her heart. I'm calling your doctor, she said as they reached the penthouse. Dr. Warren arrived within 30 minutes, his expression grave as he examined Thorne. The cancer has progressed faster than expected, he informed Serenity privately. The stress isn't helping. How long does he have? Weeks, not months. The doctor hesitated. There is one possibility, an experimental treatment at Mass General. Thorne refused to consider it. Why? The success rate is low. Recovery brutal. And Dr. Warren lowered his voice. Thorne said he didn't want to prolong the inevitable. After the doctor left, Serenity sat beside Thorne's bed, watching him sleep. The flash drive with the uncorrupted data lay on the nightstand. Salvation for his company and legacy, but useless if he died before exposing Maxwell's treachery. Thorne stirred, opening his eyes. Did we get it? Yes. Serenity took his hand. The doctor was here. Bad news. Why didn't you tell me about the experimental treatment at Mass General? Thorne looked away. 10% success rate. Not worth it. That's not your decision alone anymore. Her voice broke. People care what happens to you, Thorne. People. His eyes found hers. Or you. Both. She squeezed his hand. Dr. Warren says you're a perfect candidate for the trial. Even if it worked, recovery would take months. So, Maxwell would take control while I'm incapacitated. Everything would be lost. Not if we stop him first. Serenity's determination hardened. Tomorrow's the FDA submission. Friday's the board meeting. We have 2 days to expose him. Thorne studied her face. Why are you doing this? After everything. Because somewhere between hating you and understanding you, I started caring. She met his gaze. And I don't give up on people I care about. For a moment, vulnerability replaced his usual mask. His hand reached up, fingers brushing her cheek. I don't deserve you, Serenity Everett. Probably not. She smiled through tears. But you're stuck with me anyway. That night, as Thorne finally slept, Serenity made a call to her father in Cedar Springs. Dad, I need your prayers, she whispered. And I need you to understand that I'm not coming home yet. I've found where I'm supposed to be. In the darkness of Thorne's bedroom, watching the rise and fall of his chest, Serenity faced a truth she'd been avoiding. Despite his deception, despite everything, she was falling in love with her dying husband. The morning of the FDA submission, Serenity helped Thorne dress for battle. His tailored suit hung loose on his frame, but determination burned in his eyes. Ready? She asked, straightening his tie. As I'll ever be. Their plan was straightforward but risky. Confront Maxwell with evidence of data tampering before the submission was finalized, salvage the drug's reputation, and expose his betrayal to the board. At Everett Enterprises headquarters, they bypassed the main entrance, using Thorne's private elevator. The research floor was buzzing with pre-submission activity. Mr. Everett. The research director looked startled. We weren't expecting you today. Last-minute review. Thorne's voice betrayed none of his physical weakness. Where's Maxwell? Boardroom. Final presentation to the submission team. Thorne nodded to Serenity. Game time. They entered the boardroom to find Maxwell mid-presentation, Vivian at his side. Shock registered on their faces. Thorne, Maxwell recovered quickly. Didn't expect to see you vertical. Clearly, Thorne connected his flash drive to the presentation system. Before we submit, I'd like to address some discrepancies. Maxwell's eyes darted to the flash drive. There's no time for changes. The courier leaves in 20 minutes. Make time. Thorne pulled up the original data alongside Maxwell's altered version. Would you care to explain these differences? The room fell silent as researchers examined the side-by-side comparison. Maxwell's face drained of color. Obviously a technical error, he stammered. In exactly the areas that would render the drug unmarketable. Thorne's voice was dangerously quiet. That's quite a coincidence. Vivian stepped forward. You're clearly unwell, Thorne. Perhaps your own perception is affected. My perception is fine. He circulated security footage showing Maxwell accessing restricted data, as is my evidence. Maxwell's expression hardened. You've always been so sanctimonious. The brilliant Thorne Everett, father's golden child. This isn't about our father. Everything is about our father. Maxwell's composure shattered. His precious heir, taking over the company while I was still grieving. Making every decision, controlling my life, my career. I was protecting you. You were suffocating me. Maxwell slammed his fist on the table. You never gave me a chance to prove myself. Even dying, you couldn't trust me to lead. Because of exactly this. Thorne gestured to the altered data. You destroy lives to satisfy your ego. You destroyed mine first, Maxwell hissed. Always the responsible one, the genius, the favorite. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow? Even our parents' death became about you. Brave Thorne, shouldering the burden. Serenity watched pain flash across Thorne's face. The brothers' wounds ran deeper than business rivalry. Your brother never wanted to control you, she interjected, stepping between them. He was 19, suddenly responsible for a global company and a teenage brother. He sacrificed his own dreams to preserve your father's legacy, for both of you. Maxwell glared at her. What would you know about it? I know Thorne keeps your mother's garden in bloom. I know he visits your parents' grave every month. And I know he rejected potentially life-saving treatment because he feared you'd destroy everything while he was incapacitated. Vivian stepped forward. You're being naive. Thorne is manipulating you, just like he manipulates everyone. Unlike some people, Serenity fixed her with a stare. I've seen his medical records. I know exactly what he's facing and what he's sacrificed. Thorne swayed slightly, and Serenity moved to steady him. The room noticed. Enough family drama. The research director interrupted. These alterations are serious. The submission cannot proceed with falsified data. Maxwell's face contorted with rage and something else, fear. If we miss this submission window, the company loses millions. The board will blame you, Thorne. Then I'll take responsibility. But I won't release a compromised drug. Maxwell's eyes darted around the room, finding no allies. Suddenly, his demeanor changed. There's another option, he said quietly. The Kellerman Protocol. Thorne stiffened. That was discontinued. Because you dismissed it. But the preliminary results were promising for your specific mutation. The side effects were manageable in later trials. Maxwell pulled out his phone, showing research Thorne hadn't seen. I've been monitoring it. There's a specialist in Boston advancing the protocol. 90 days from treatment to results. Serenity looked between the brothers. What is the Kellerman Protocol? An experimental gene therapy, Thorne explained. Early trials showed promise for pancreatic cancer with my particular mutation, but the side effects were devastating. They've refined it, Maxwell insisted. Dr. Patterson has had 3 successful cases in the past year. Thorne studied his brother's face. Why would you track this? You want me gone. I want to run the company, not watch you die. Maxwell's voice cracked. Despite everything, you're my brother. The room fell silent as something shifted between the Everett brothers. Years of resentment and misunderstanding hung in the balance. Fix the data, Thorne finally said. Submit the legitimate results. Then we'll discuss the Kellerman Protocol. Maxwell nodded, relief visible on his face. As researchers hurried to prepare the corrected submission, Vivian slipped out unnoticed. Serenity took Thorne's arm. You need to sit down. Not yet. He turned to Maxwell. The board meeting tomorrow. I'll withdraw my motion to remove you, Maxwell promised. Tell them you're pursuing treatment. Buy us time. For the first time in years, the brothers reached an understanding. As they left the boardroom, Thorne stumbled. This time, both Serenity and Maxwell rushed to catch him. Hospital, Serenity insisted. Now. Thorne didn't argue. As emergency personnel rushed him into treatment, he squeezed Serenity's hand. Stay with me, he whispered. Always, she promised, finally admitting to herself that she had fallen completely, irrevocably in love with Thorne Everett. 3 months after beginning the Kellerman Protocol, Thorne sat in Dr. Patterson's Boston office, holding Serenity's hand as they awaited test results. The treatment had been brutal, worse than even Maxwell's research suggested. For weeks, Thorne had endured fevers, tremors, and pain that medication barely touched. Through it all, Serenity had remained steadfast, sleeping in a chair beside his hospital bed, learning every detail of his care plan, advocating fiercely when medical staff faltered. "Whatever happens," Thorne said quietly, "these months with you have been worth it." Serenity squeezed his hand. "Don't talk like that. We're not done fighting." The door opened. Dr. Patterson entered with a tablet and an unreadable expression. "The results are promising," he began cautiously. "Tumor markers are down 70%. The primary mass has reduced by half." Serenity's breath caught. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means the protocol is working. Not a cure yet, but a significant extension of life expectancy. Perhaps years instead of months." Tears spilled down Serenity's cheeks. Thorne sat motionless, processing. "There will be maintenance treatments," Dr. Patterson continued. "Quarterly infusions, monitoring. But you can return to normal activities. Build a future." After the doctor left, Thorne and Serenity sat in stunned silence. "Years," she finally whispered. "We have years." "We?" Thorne turned to her. "Serenity, our contract was for 1 year. You never signed up for a sick husband long-term." "I never signed up for any of this," she replied, wiping away tears. "But here we are. You deserve better than hospital rooms and treatment schedules." Serenity took his face in her hands. "After everything we've been through, do you still not understand? I love you, Thorne Everett. Not your money, not your name. You." Thorne stared at her in wonder. "How is that possible?" "I've asked myself the same thing." She smiled through tears. "Turns out love doesn't follow logical patterns. I don't deserve it. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." For the first time since she'd known him, Thorne Everett laughed, a genuine sound of joy that transformed his face. "I love you too," he said softly. "I think I have since you stood up to me in my office that first day." 2 weeks later, they returned to Cedar Springs. Serenity wanted Thorne to see where she came from, to understand the community that had shaped her. The expanded clinic now served 3 counties, staffed with specialists Thorne had recruited. Her father, healthy and active, embraced his son-in-law without reservation. "Thank you for saving her," he told Thorne quietly during a walk through pine forests. "Not just the clinic, her spirit. She's happier than I've ever seen her." "She saved me," Thorne replied, "in every way that matters." That evening, beside a bonfire under stars brighter than any Manhattan night, Thorne knelt before Serenity. "Our marriage began as a contract," he said, taking her hand. "I want to start again. Properly this time." He offered a simple diamond ring. "Serenity Blackwood, will you marry me? Not for business, not for obligation. For love." Through happy tears, she nodded. "Yes, but on one condition." "Anything." "No separate bedrooms." Their laughter mingled with the crackling fire. Back in New York, they held a small ceremony in the rooftop garden, now lush with flowers. Mrs. Harrington wept openly. Maxwell stood as best man, his relationship with Thorne healing slowly but steadily. That night, Thorne carried his bride across the threshold to their now shared bedroom. As moonlight filtered through the windows, Serenity took her husband's face in her hands. "I'm ready," she whispered. "No medical procedures, no clinical plans. Just us." Their first night as true husband and wife was tender, patient, a beginning rather than an obligation. 1 year later, the garden hosted another celebration. The Everett Enterprises cancer drug had received full FDA approval, already saving thousands of lives. Thorne's latest scans showed continued remission. And most miraculous of all, Serenity's pregnancy, conceived naturally against all odds, had just entered its 2nd trimester. "Boy or girl?" Maxwell asked, placing a protective hand on Serenity's slight bump. "We decided not to find out," Thorne replied, his arm around his wife's waist. "Some surprises are worth waiting for." Later that evening, alone in their garden, Thorne placed his hand on Serenity's stomach, feeling the flutter of new life. "My heir," he murmured. Serenity placed her hand over his. "Not an heir, Thorne. Our child. Loved for who they are, not what they represent." He nodded, understanding the distinction. "You changed everything, you know. My life, my heart, my future." "Funny," she smiled. "I came to New York expecting to lose everything. Instead, I found everything I never knew I wanted." As twilight settled over Manhattan, They remained wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by blooming roses, dark red ones, just like his mother had loved. The garden, once abandoned in grief, now flourished with new life and possibility. Serenity leaned her head against her husband's shoulder, marveling at the journey that had brought them here, from a cold business arrangement to the deepest love she'd ever known. "What are you thinking?" Thorne asked, kissing her temple. "That sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from what we think are endings." As stars appeared above the city skyline, they stayed entwined in their garden sanctuary, two people who had found each other against impossible odds, creating a love story neither could have imagined. The Cedar Springs Medical Center's annual charity gala was in full swing. Once a modest clinic fighting for survival, it had grown into a regional medical hub serving 5 counties. A bronze plaque in the entrance hall told its story, founded on compassion, saved by love. Serenity Everett moved through the crowd, greeting donors and staff with genuine warmth. At 30, she carried herself with quiet confidence, her simple elegance a contrast to the Manhattan socialites she'd once tried to emulate. "Mommy," a small voice called out as a 4-year-old girl with her father's gray eyes and her mother's chestnut hair weaved through the crowd. "Daddy says it's time for your speech." Serenity scooped up Eliza Grace Everett, kissing her rosy cheek. "Is that so? And where is your brother?" "Thomas is with Uncle Max eating all the cookies." Eliza giggled. "Daddy said not to tell." "Did he now?" Serenity raised an eyebrow as Thorne approached, looking healthier than he had in years. The experimental treatment had extended his prognosis indefinitely. Not a cure, but a miracle nonetheless. "Betrayed by my own daughter." Thorne sighed dramatically, taking Eliza from Serenity's arms. "Remember our deal, little one? Daddy shares cookies, you keep secrets." "Sorry," Eliza whispered, "not sorry at all." Thorne's gaze softened as he looked at his wife. "Ready for your moment, Dr. Everett?" Serenity smoothed her dress, a far cry from the borrowed finery of her early New York days. "Are you sure you don't want to speak? It's your foundation too. The Everett Family Foundation for Rural Healthcare is your vision." He kissed her temple. "I just provide the capital and occasional board meeting intimidation." As Serenity took the podium, she saw her father in the front row, sitting beside Mrs. Harrington, who had retired to Cedar Springs last year. Maxwell stood near the back, 3-year-old Thomas perched on his shoulders, their faces identically mischievous. 5 years ago, Serenity began. This clinic was days from closing. Today, we've provided care to over 50,000 patients across 5 counties. She detailed the foundation's achievements: satellite clinics in remote areas, telehealth services, scholarship programs for rural medical students. The audience applauded each milestone. "But numbers only tell part of our story," she continued. "The true measure is in moments: a child breathing easier after their first asthma treatment, an elderly patient receiving care without traveling hours, a family finding answers after years of uncertainty." Her gaze found thorns. Sometimes the most unlikely beginnings lead to the most beautiful journeys. This center exists because one man was willing to take a chance on a small-town clinic, and later, on love itself. After the speeches and auction, Serenity found Thorne in the clinic's memorial garden. He stood before a newly installed fountain, reading the inscription, "For those who taught us to heal, and those who taught us to hope." "Your parents would be proud," Serenity said, slipping her arm through his. "Of which part?" Thorne smiled. "The medical foundation named after them, or their grandchildren demolishing the dessert table?" "Both." She leaned against him. "Speaking of which, Maxwell is teaching them to make paper airplanes out of the donation cards." "Perfect," Thorne laughed. Corporate raider turned favorite uncle. Who would have thought? The years had softened the brothers' relationship. Maxwell now ran the company's international division, proving himself a capable executive once freed from Thorne's shadow. Vivian had disappeared from their lives after a brief scandal involving insider trading. "I received an interesting offer today," Serenity said. "The medical school wants me to head their rural health initiative." "You should do it," Thorne replied without hesitation. "You've already transformed healthcare in this region. It would mean splitting our time between here and New York. The children will adapt, as we have." Thorne tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Our family works anywhere, as long as we're together." Their conversation was interrupted by Eliza and Thomas racing into the garden, followed by a harried-looking Maxwell. "Sorry," he panted. "They wanted to show you something." Thomas proudly held up a slightly crushed flower. "For Mommy's garden." Serenity knelt to accept the gift. "It's perfect, sweetheart. We'll plant it in our special place when we get home." Home was now both places: the Manhattan penthouse with its thriving rooftop garden, and a historic farmhouse near Cedar Springs where the children could run free during summer months. That night, after tucking the children into bed at Serenity's childhood home, Thorn and Serenity sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies dance across the yard. 5 years, Thorn mused. "Remember our first meeting? You were terrible," Serenity laughed. "Arrogant, cold, demanding. And you were terrified but stood your ground anyway." He pulled her closer. "Best business decision I ever made." "Is that what I was? A business decision?" "You were the variable I couldn't control." Thorn kissed her softly. "The one who changed all my equations." Above them, stars stretched across the rural sky, brighter than any city lights. Their journey had come full circle, from desperate bargain to enduring love, from borrowed time to a future rich with possibility. "No regrets?" Thorn asked, a question he still posed occasionally, as if amazed by his good fortune. Serenity leaned her head against his shoulder, thinking of the unlikely path that had led them here, a forced marriage that had saved not just a clinic, but 2 souls who needed each other more than either could have imagined. "Not a single one," she whispered, as fireflies illuminated the darkness around them like stars brought down to earth. "Some secrets are worth discovering."